Hi, this is a quick summation of the tragedy in film discussion thread that you just completed. There were a few points I wanted to clarify or reiterate, and that includes the idea of hubris. Hubris is based on emotion, specifically pride and arrogance in a person, and that pride or arrogance leads to suffering. You've heard the phrase, pride comes before a fall. Well, that stems back to the ancient Greeks, and it's not just a biblical injunction, if you will. Suffering, though, equals knowledge in the end. If you're going to go through suffering and survive it, that suffering will bring knowledge to you. It's kind of like the Nietzschean idea of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's that sort of idea. The other thing about this is that oftentimes the person at the center of a tragedy, even in spite of the hubris, can have very good intentions. But, however, those good intentions don't always achieve what the person wants to accomplish, and therein lies some of the tragedy. Hubris can also, with some of the later playwrights, serve as a kind of tragic flaw. And remember that the tragic flaws are something that the hero has to overcome in some way to succeed, or the tragic fall itself leads to a complete downfall. Now, in that case, what's happening in both hubris just by itself or with a tragic flaw is that reason is overwhelmed by the passions, or reason is overwhelmed by pride and arrogance. They get in the way of reasonable thinking. And again, that is the dilemma. So the Greeks very much are the first society to really want us to focus on logic, reason, even though, and here's the irony, even though, look at that art in the Hellenistic period, it is so emotional and so vibrant. So we have this twin tug of war between the emotions and reason in Greek life. The other thing is that the Greeks are the first real society, at least in the later parts of the time periods that we cover. They see tragedy as not always being a negative thing. Tragedy is often a very positive thing. It brings catharsis, a cleansing. So even for the viewer then, tragedy is a positive experience. It's something that's important for our own growth. Suffering with those characters brings knowledge to us as viewers. So I hope those ideas bring a little bit more to the discussion. The other thing to remember is that tragedy can also be something that's affecting a community as a whole. We see that sometimes. For example, not too long ago in Flint, Michigan, the economic crisis hit that community very, very deeply. And when a whole community experienced that, it was a kind of tragedy and suffering that the whole community shared in. And so we see communities either surviving that and growing from that, or collapsing. And so even a community can experience this kind of tragedy. Now, looking at your 5 different little discussion threads going on with the tragedy in film topic, I'm going to just give you a quick list of some of the movies that people came up with. Gran Torino, and probably the weirdest one in the group, which I found very interesting and refreshing, was Cars. Gone with the Wind, Annie, which was another interesting choice, but a good one. Not focusing on Annie as the site of tragedy, but Getty Warbucks. The Star Wars saga, and Anakin Skywalker is a very, very good example of hubris. Batman, the 1989, I think it was, version. Antoine Fisher. American History X, which is very high on my list of favorite movies as well. It's a good choice. Romeo and Juliet, absolutely. We Are Marshall, The Changeling, which I haven't seen, and I thought the discussion was kind of interesting on that one. Braveheart, Highlander, Titanic. 2 threads talked about both Gran Torino and Titanic. The Diary of Anne Frank, which made Hitler the site of hubris, but Anne Frank the site of tragedy. And that's where we might want to look as a community maybe experiencing more of the tragedy. And Romero was a last little posting on that to add in. So again, good job, class. A really good job for your first discussion thread, dealing with a lot of information. You did a wonderful job, and I look forward to seeing your work on the container activity.